Live.
All right, woohoo! Ladies, oh my gosh, it's Thursday and it's the perfect day to have the most incredible conversation. I am so jacked up about this. I have been looking forward to this all week. And I feel like Thursdays are like those days where we start to get the dull drums. You're about to come out of that. So welcome everybody to the Uncommon Woman community. My name is Marlo Ellis. I'm the founder of the Uncommon Woman. And I am over the moon excited about this conversation. In fact, I'm fired up about it because we're all in lockdown. And I think a lot of us are feeling a little bit like the itch, you know, especially those of us that are single. And so this is going to be such a good conversation to kind of like relight the fires and just get really open and honest about what we want moving forward. If anything, I know what I don't want moving forward. There's a lot of clarity in this time, but I'm really excited to be bringing to you the most incredible Isis Lior, who is right now coming to us live from Spain. Hello, goddess.
Hello, very exciting.
I am so excited about this. So before we even get started, I just want to let everybody know a few things. First of all, the content of this conversation is going to be beautiful. It's going to be graceful and powerful and divinely feminine, but it's also going to be raw. So I would invite people who feel like they want to share this message over to their community to please share it over, knowing that. But I'm going to be sharing this all over the place because I think it's an important message that women really, really need to hear. And the way that we build messages on social media in particular is through sharing. And so if you might want to wait a little while and see if Isis resonates. I'm pretty sure she's going to because she resonates with me. And so that's why I wanted to bring her into the Uncommon Woman community because I really believe that she's going to resonate with all of you. So if this message resonates with you, please hit share on your screen and share it over because I truly believe, Isis, that what you have to say and what you're about to open up in this conversation is vital. And I'm going to do a proper introduction in 1 minute. I just want to wait for people to jump on. But one of the things that I love about you while we're waiting for people to jump on, and thank you everybody for being here, is that you talk in your bio about unlearning socially and emotionally responsible language around like the things that make us comfortable. So it's one of the reasons why I feel like this is going to be such an incredible conversation because I think women need to not that we need to be given permission, but sometimes we like to see other people model it first, right? So for those of you who are coming on, please know that I'm not looking at the comments as you come on only because I get super distracted, but I want you to please welcome Isis into our community. Isis and I just met, man, like not even that long ago, maybe a month and a half ago or something. I met her through a private Facebook community called Alpha Femme, which is run by one of my previous mentors, Melanie Ann Lair, who's an incredible human being and somebody that I just admire so much. And I was in the group and somebody had asked a question, Isis, and you came in and responded. And I rarely interact in other groups just because all the things, right? But I love that group. And I remember reading your response and thinking, man, this is such a beautiful, articulate response. And so then I actually, you know, clicked on your name, went to your social media, and I started following you. And what happened was I originally loved what you had to say to this woman. And then what I loved is what you had to say to me. And so I've been creeping her ever since. And finally, I think it was like that day, actually, I don't know if you remember, but I just reached out and said, I need to bring you into my community. Can we have a conversation? Like it was just that quick, right? So I just want to welcome you here. And I just want you to know that the door is open in the Uncommon Woman community for you to step in and share your message because we love to meet new people and hear, you know, and hear from other women who are super powerful. So thank you for joining. Thank you for being here.
My absolute pleasure. Fun to hear more about how you found me too. I didn't realize it was through a comment. So.
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. And I just remember going to your social media and everybody, like, I want you to take some time at some point here, if not now, right after, and follow Isis on Facebook is actually where I found that you had so much to say to me. And then also over on Instagram, it's isis.leor, L-E-E-O-R, right?
I think so. On Instagram, I'm much more active on Facebook. So pop
On
in
Facebook.
if you can.
Right. Yeah. And so what I loved about your message, just to let people know about why I wanted to bring you in, was that you're coming in with a really fresh, bold, raw, but important perspective about women and sexuality and relationships and open conversations and self-love. But it's not like the self-love, kind of like throw your fingers up and throw air quotes around it. It's really about true embodiment. And I feel like we're in this really powerful time right now where the divine feminine energies are shifting. And that also requires that women embrace a little bit more, or a whole lot more, depending on where you are, of themselves, right? And so that's why I feel like this is so timely as well.
Yeah, I agree. It's time for us to be unwrapped like the gifts we are, instead of, I think so many of these other movements are well-intentioned and maybe we get insights from them, but it can end up being things that we add on to create another identity on top of what's actually happening. And this is really about pulling those strings, opening up the corset and letting the belly and the breasts and the body be what it is, and say, okay, this is what I am. How do I engage this?
Right. And, when I think about women and when I think about what we're experiencing right now, there's a lot of confusion, right? I feel like women are slightly confused because we're, on the one hand, we're being told to go all out, be bold, embrace fully who you are and all that. But then there's also stuff like social media, which can really, I don't know that the intention from other people is to shame anybody, but often we feel so much shame because we look at social media and we compare ourselves to other people. And then that whole message that we had heard 15 minutes earlier on the podcast just disappears when we hide away, because we start getting into comparison and we start seeing how other people are managing their sexuality or their womanness, and we don't feel like we measure up.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think social media does something too, which it makes us into a brand. And one of the things that hurts us most as women is that we're constantly taught to step outside of ourselves, engage our worthiness by what we may look like outside of ourselves, as opposed to being in our own experience, being in our body, looking out as if there were no mirrors, as if there were no photographs, and then gauging our attractiveness from our state of being, engaging how rich our lives are from how we feel, as opposed to what could this look like. And that's where all the comparisons come from. But that first step is, what does it look like? Like, not how does it feel? And when we look at photos, I mean, I've done enough photo shoots to know that sometimes the person who looks the sexiest and the most embodied is someone who was talking about chicken wings a half a second before. I know because I did a photo shoot with a woman who was just clicking on this face, and I'm like, how is she talking about what she ate? And then suddenly in the photo, she looks like she's the most hot, luscious woman on earth. Well, she had makeup on her body. She had learned and practiced in the mirror to put on this image. And that's exactly what we're trying to pull apart, is the idea of us versus the reality of what it feels like to be, yes.
Oh, I think it's all of your, this is it'd be such a fun conversation, because it's really the first time you and I have talked about this in depth. But I feel like I have moved from, because I was in the fitness industry, which is so visual. It took me 5 years really to deprogram myself. And over the last year, 2020 and now in 2021, I'm really focusing in on how I feel. Yeah. And so I feel like I'm in such a juicy place right now, to be honest with you, because when we're always looking at the visual or the external or whatever, we completely detach from the feeling piece, right? Because it becomes about that, and instead of the feeling. And as a 51-year-old woman, I have decided that I want to feel a certain way for the rest of my life. Yeah. Right. And trying to look a certain way for the rest of my life, it's kind of like running up a mudslide, what I do want is to feel a certain way, no matter how I look, no matter how beautiful I feel or don't feel in the day, it doesn't matter. It's how I feel. Right. Right. So anyway, amazing. And okay, so I just want everybody to understand, before we really get started, that Isis has all of the professionally trained background, as well as the lived experience. And sometimes when we get into these conversations and people start going where you're going to go, people aren't really sure what their experience is or what their education is. And I know I've written it down because it was, I didn't want to get it wrong, but you have body psychotherapy, tantra, and hypnotherapy training on top of your lived experience, your personal story, 20 years of working with women and working in this area. So there's a lot of backing here. Like, you're the real deal with lots of experience. And so I just want to put that out there to people that, they're speaking to, and they're hearing from somebody who's been in this for a while, and you've had lots of opportunity to evolve and grow your message, as well as lean into your professional experience. So what I'd like you to do, because this is a storytelling platform, and it's funny because I came to you for one thing, my own story, really, about my own sexuality and relationships and how I want to feel moving forward. But then I started reading your personal story, and I saw that you have a really powerful personal story. And I feel like we need to share that, if you're comfortable doing that here in the community, because I want people to see that you can be in that story, and then through all the hard work and through all of the healing, still be able to have this kind of a conversation.
Yeah.
So are you open to sharing that? If so,
yeah,
agree.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's start with the moment where I am sitting on the floor and my husband had killed himself a few days prior. And I'm sitting there having this moment because I can feel all of the emotion, and I had been holding it over here, trying to organize the cremation, trying to organize, what do I do with his 40 years of science insect t-shirts, all of the logistics. And I knew that at some point I was going to need to make a choice. Am I going to break, or am I going to break open? I felt like the breaking, if I chose to break, would mean that I shut down, that I would be so overwhelmed by the intensity of the feeling and my inability to integrate and process it, that I would decide, because I was 21 at the time, so it was really a formative moment for me, I would decide I never wanted to feel like this again. I never wanted to feel this betrayal, this shock. Like, I never wanted to feel this hurt or alone. And so I would close off my heart, and I would close off my body, and I would build a life over making sure it never happens again. That would be the option to break, which I think is the option that most people take. But I could feel there was another thing that I could choose, which was to break open, which was to let this storm, let this intensity clean me so thoroughly, like open me so thoroughly, that I would never be afraid to love at that depth again. And I knew, and I could feel that I would probably survive this, and that it would give me a ground and a courage to be really bold in how I was intimate. So I made the conscious choice, because I think, like a lot of us, sometimes in the intensity of things, there's like this little witness here that's like, something big is going to happen. How do you want to deal with this?
Right.
And I chose break open. And almost immediately, I went from having it together and planning all of the things to sobbing in a way where I couldn't stop. And I just sort of lay down on the ground and sobbed for about 24 hours. And I was so distraught and so destroyed, just really like weeping out. I mean, I sweat for months after this. I would have night sweats. I was like literally crying from my body, just letting out all of this grief. But within those 24 hours, I was so destroyed, I literally had to be carried to the bathroom and wiped. I could not do anything. But on the other side of that, I had chosen a way of being in love with life and a capacity for intimacy that I didn't even know was possible. And similarly, I feel like a lot of us choose to have a full spectrum experience of something. We go from one extreme, and then we spend our lives learning the other end, the other pole. I grew up with a mother who had, I've learned now, narcissistic personality disorder. So I was alone with a woman who, it was like looking in funhouse mirrors. I couldn't see who I was. I couldn't see my value. I felt like so many women to an extreme of my only value is in how I can make someone else feel good about themselves, how I can make someone else feel happy. And I'm winning and I'm doing okay. And maybe I'm close to being loved if I am exerting all my effort in this direction, and then I am nothing and I have zero value if I do anything that is purely for myself. So I grew up in that way. And so I've also spent my whole life like, what is self-esteem? Like, what does it mean to claim my own value and claim my sovereignty as a human being and come into my power and come into and face all of that fear and terror that no one's going to love me if I do that. So for me, it was a very extreme beginning, but I think most women can relate to this. And similarly, one extreme to the other. I grew up also with a experience or with a history of sexual abuse. So I grew up feeling very unsafe in my body. I felt very suspicious of men. I felt like to be safe, I remember gaining like 30 or 40 pounds as a teenager and literally dressing from clothes at the maternity store because I wanted to do everything possible to hide. And I felt so ashamed and I felt so disconnected. I shopped at the maternity store and the Goodwill outlet, not just the Goodwill outlet where your stuff,
it's
like you've got a garbage bag. How many smelly
fill
clothes?
up a bag for $1, right? Yeah.
No, exactly. It was $5. And how many smelly clothes that have been rejected from Goodwill can you get this bag? How much I valued myself.
Yes.
Competing with like old Russian grandmas who smelled like sweat and trying to grab the clothes from them, you know, put them in the bag. So going from that, teaching women how to do things like orgasm with their breath or being in a state of ecstasy. So
You've been on the journey.
I have definitely been on a journey of like, okay, how do you get from this to this? And one of the reasons why I do this work is I know you can.
Right.
And most people don't. Most people are here and they're like, I'm broken forever.
Right.
I'm a survivor of this. No, you are one end of a spectrum of experience, and perhaps your life journey is to learn how to get all the way over here and say, okay, done, did that bit.
Right. You know, thank you. Like, so for the women who are in my community who know, you know, who have been here quite a bit and know what we're about, what I love about your story, first of all, I didn't realize all of the pockets of your story, which often happens when we say to somebody, share. So thank you so much for openly sharing things that are difficult to talk about and to share. And if you are somebody who resonates with any part of Isis's story, what I suggest is that you like put a little heart in the comments, because the reason that we share our stories is that I see you, you see me, right? And I always want to make sure that we honor women who step forward and say, here's what I experienced, because my hope is that more women will be as comfortable as you are to do that. So if you're somebody who resonates with her, any part of her story, please put a heart in the comments. And I know that we have a lot of women here who have experienced sexualized violence or abuse as a child or as an adult, have found children and partners who have killed themselves, and you know, they have to continue that journey alone. And you know, having a childhood with a mentally ill parent is a difficult, you take all of those things and you pile them on one another, and that's called compound trauma, right? And then here you are teaching women how to reconnect to some of the pieces of them that, to me, I would logically think you would just want to say, like, I'm shutting this door and this door and this door, which I feel is a great lead into what it is that you and I are going to talk about today. You had said, you know, I really want to talk about being able to have the relationship that you want. And by the way, like, this is assuming that not everybody is in a relationship. I'm single. I'm not in a relationship right now. So I think this is a great conversation for anybody, whether they're in a relationship or want a relationship or see themselves in a relationship in the future or whatever, knowing that you can have that.
Absolutely. I'm single right now too. but I'm still practicing to be a lover.
So how did you, from being somebody who has had so much trauma, right?
Mm.
How did you get to the place that, and I know that this is like, how did you get to the place? Give me top 3, go, but it's like, if there was, because of course people are going to be taking mad notes listening to you, because there are women right now who are completely shut down who are here, for sure.
Yeah.
We can just guarantee that there are people who are like, haven't had sex in years, not
Mm-hmm.
interested in sex, don't ever want to have sex again.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say, yeah, let's pull back. Why don't you want to have, like, when we get down to it, it's fear, safety, not wanting to be vulnerable, not wanting to put themselves back out there. Right. So
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about your journey, some of the things that, that have been so vital to you that they might be able to take with them?
Wow, that is a
loaded question. Okay.
No, I'll try and give you the cliff notes. So the first thing is understanding for me, in these choices, that what's happened to me isn't who I am. And staying out of the realm, like I remember being in a sexual abuse survivors group, which was really helpful and impactful. I think it's really important to claim this happened.
Right.
It happened. But having the option of, do I want to identify as a sexual abuse survivor? And feeling personally for myself, I've lived so many things in my life. And some of them have been absolutely magnificent. I mean, there's a lot more traumatic things I can share, but I've also been in Santorini and sat on a rooftop and watched the sunset, with a glass of wine. How would my life be if I identified as that? I'm a world traveler. I'm a sexual abuse survivor, right? Like, how do I want to see myself? What's the context of my life? And
that's a great question to ask ourselves.
Right. Do I want to identify as a victim who's forever wounded, or do I want to identify as a heroine and a hero of my own life who has been through a spectrum of things and give it a meaning? Create a context and story around it that enables me to thrive, heal, and keep going. So that's the first thing. That was that choice, that place of
identity, just how you identified.
Right.
You chose to identify. Okay.
If I tell my story from the context of each thing has helped bring me deeper into myself. Like when I think about my husband killing himself, yeah, it was fucking horrible. I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
Right.
Absolutely horrible. But I used it in a way that brought me so much deeper to myself, deeper into myself, and gave me such a capacity to really be with people in their pain and to have empathy, to hold a bigger space. Like it expanded me, it blew me open.
Right. Do you think you would even be here if that hadn't happened?
Probably. I mean, I have too many other things.
Right. Right. And I'm not saying that I'm not really a believer in, that happened so you could be here, because I can't say that to the person whose child was murdered right in front of their eyes. No, but sometimes these experiences, in fact, all times, these experiences send us in a direction, right? The choices that we make on that direction are different. So it's part of why you're able to hold this space for women who have had really difficult, challenging experience, and say, if I can get off the floor, I'm confident that at some point you can, right?
Absolutely. And I think this is a very personal internal choice, because if you say to someone, well, don't identify as a sexual abuse survivor, like that's just diminishing their experience.
Right, exactly.
This
and
is
it's
something
also semantics, I sometimes feel like, to an extent.
Right. Right.
Like, yeah.
It's this moment of who am I, and can I separate that from what's happened to me? And is there a way that I can create meaning around what's happened to me, that it can become useful instead of something that I just survived? Amen. So, for example, for me to be able to tell this story, first of all, I know the shame of not telling the story. Anything you put in the closet and you lock the door gathers dust, and it starts to create your life in the background. So being able to say these things, hoping it's going to give permission for other people to not have to lock it in the closet where you feel like it's something about you. If you have to lock it in the closet Ask all of the people who are gay who felt like they couldn't say it. It creates shame, even if it's absolutely not shameful. So first, to be able to say it, and secondly, for me, there's something about being able to give it back as a gift that gives it meaning.
Right.
So what is that going to be for the people watching? How can they find meaning for what's happened that somehow satisfies them in the context they choose for their life, that helps enhance who they are if they're the heroine of their own story. So that was an important thing. Then the rest.
Question. Sorry.
Yes.
Question. Okay. Because I think that this is a question that a lot of women might ask, and a lot of women who are in in the Uncommon Woman ministry have. And I don't want to just make this about your sexual abuse story, because there's so much more to you than that. However, I feel like this is one of the areas of trauma that can really shut a woman down.
Yes.
Sexually.
Yes.
I understand. And so can I ask you a question about that? And maybe, you can just address this a little bit, is how do we get to a place where we feel sexually safe within our own, trust ourselves, right, to make good choices, and also feel like we can be untethered or unleashed in that place that at one point was so closed off. I mean, I've had women share their stories from the Uncommon Woman stage and say, I left my body and I completely shut the door when this was happening. When you are in a state of, complete love and passion and sexuality, the way that you talk about it, which is so present, you couldn't be more present, right? And so there's such a large bridge there, right? So
yes.
Is this some of the work that you do in your program?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So maybe just I know you've addressed it. Identity was one of them, right? Just the way that you identified.
Maybe that's just the initial choice.
That's the beginning. Yeah. Okay. So something else that they might identify with, maybe that they could apply right away.
Right. Well, so all of these are really big, juicy questions.
Yeah, they're all juicy.
Good question. I go through the processes of how to do this, how to embody this, the unraveling that it takes in my work. If these are questions that resonate with people, please,
Yeah, this would be a question a lot of women would ask, I think, because I've had women ask me that question, and I don't have that same background, so I can't give I haven't been on a similar journey. Anyway.
Well, I'm going to plant a seed, though, right? Yeah. So the identity piece is just a seed. It's so one piece.
Right.
So I remember crying once a year and watching myself from the ceiling, because I was so disconnected. I was so tightly held. I was doing everything I could. That was smart for me at the time, to try and keep myself from being abused again, to hold my emotions like a snack for later, because I knew that at the time I didn't have the skills or resources or the safety to deal with them. So I was doing that through weight. I was doing that through disassociation. I was doing that through being really in my head. I was doing that through trying to control every aspect of my life. And of course, things were popping up that were letting me know this is not sustainable. Digestion, with not being able to sleep, like there were things that were like, even as a teenager, you're not going to be able to do this forever. But I certainly did my best to put this stuff on pause. And I remember having one of my first sexual experiences where a boy touched my breast, who I really liked him so much. And I laughed hysterically because I couldn't feel anything.
Wow.
Like it felt like he touching a door or a wall. Like it was
completely disconnected.
Completely disconnected.
Does that resonate with anybody here? Put a 1 in the comments.
Oh, I'm sure.
And yeah. I mean, I've been sexually disconnected before, and I haven't experienced that trauma, right?
Yeah.
We have this incredible power, which is the same power that we can use to connect, FYI, to disconnect, right? And just be like, I'm just going to check out. I'm just not in, right? Anyway, that's fascinating.
It's a freeze response. It's the animal body trying to keep you safe, and it's a smart instinct. The thing is, it's just not a sustainable instinct, and it's not a way to be truly alive.
Right.
So
It's
when
also fine, right? Like, hello, flag. It's a flag. It's a flag.
Yeah, it's
For us. For us.
it's a flag, and then you're living in a state of deadness, waiting to reanimate. That's what freeze is.
Right.
You're waiting for the danger to be over, and what happens is the body doesn't know when the danger is over because it's still replaying in your body.
Oh, thank you.
It's like a videotape on pause. I remember watching a videotape on pause, and I thought the videotape just went to sleep. Like, you think freeze,
right, yeah.
It goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And at that time, I left videos on pause for hours, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the most active possible state. And that's what our bodies are doing with trauma.
Right.
Back and forth, right? Which is why it's exhausting.
Right.
To be in freeze.
So good. That's such a great analogy. Yeah.
But to answer your question, one of the first things that I did, in addition to a shitload of therapy and body psychotherapy and all of the things that I've kind of picked the best aspects out of and offer, was with my second husband. So I've been married twice. The first one died. And the second one I married for citizenship because I was in love with him and I wanted to stay with him. Right. So, but we had a fantastic sensual connection, and he was very embracing of me and very appreciative of me, even though I was still kind of frozen in many ways. And I remember the first year. Now, it's not necessarily going to take anyone else a year, but for me, like, I see things speeding up in terms of people like accessing different capacities more quickly.
Right.
I remember being with him intimately and not being able to feel anything and just feeling horrible and guilty and getting my head around how disconnected I felt and feeling ashamed and like I wasn't giving the right responses. And so what I practice, and I suggest practicing this in all aspects of life. This is something that I've learned and I teach with your food, with anything, with can I feel something? You know, pleasure. Can I feel that my leg is cramping? Ow. Okay, I felt something. Right. Therefore, in that 3 seconds, I am not in my head. Is the way out of your head, the way out of your disassociation is to feel something, feel anything.
Right.
I practice that every time. Can I feel my belly is hungry? Okay, can I feel that sensation of the thing he just said? Okay, can I there 5 seconds.
Right. Okay, I just want to stop you for 1 minute. Sorry. For those of you who are watching, please write that down. Like, I'm gonna stop you every once in a while because there's people watching and they're commenting, and I just like that's so vital. Like, that's so vital. Can I feel something, anything? And yes. It makes me think of when you go into that practice, when it's one of the trauma, somatic trauma response tools that you can use. Because I studied this somewhere. It's fascinating, which is, okay, what do I smell right now? Like, it literally is just pulling you back. What do I smell? What do I see? What do I hear? And it takes you exactly the same thing out of your head and into a sensation, which brings you into the present. And I mean, we all have to kind of think about if we don't understand what other people feel, because intimacy is obviously it's a tango, right? Like you're dancing with other people. That if we're completely disconnected, it's going to be sensed by the other person. And so, yes. bringing ourselves into the present is also saying, I'm here, which I think for many people, especially when it's somebody that they truly love, because, of course, we all know we can also have sex and be intimate and be completely disconnected with the person who we trust the most in the world. And we'll say things like, I really want to be present right now. I'm just, for the women who have experienced trauma of some sort, doesn't matter if you want it, unless you really are like intentional, it can easily just be like, but I can't, right? And so I love that you said that, like maybe they feel something skin to skin, or just, that's beautiful. So if there's somebody here who's struggling to connect, just even to their own body, never mind somebody else's body, that's such a beautiful tool. Okay, sorry.
No worries.
It's great. I love that.
So what I found over time was that I could stay in the sensation longer. Working out a muscle, and then a little bit longer, and then a little bit longer. And I would start feeling a sensation and exhaling and unlocking my breath. and that would increase the sensation. And so over time, I learned how to stay there. I learned that it wouldn't kill me to feel.
Right.
I learned that it could be something that I enjoyed, something that was safe. But another thing that I would suggest now, because I was practicing that when I was in my early 20s.
Yeah.
So I've learned, if you disassociate, it's okay to say, hey, whoa, I'm not here right now.
Ooh.
Can I
be all caught up in what their thought is? And I'm guessing they'll be appreciative, right? If it's the right kind of person, they'll be appreciative.
I've worked with enough couples now also, and enough men, if you partner with men, to know that they're also struggling with disassociation. It might look different, but they are equally struggling with performance pressure, with being disconnected from their bodies because of how they hardwired their bodies. And so it's an equal practice, and it's really helpful because I'll say to my partner, wow, I'm really not feeling you right now. To be able to save them that by saying, whoops, I left. Can we slow down for a second?
So good. That is so good. And you know what I love about this is that I'm really like, I really want to be bringing men into the conversation about more. And you did the most, by the way, guys, when we're done, go read Isis's, was it yesterday or the day before, you wrote that beautiful post about, oh, so good. You know, like that's part of this conversation is like, you know, men have their stuff too, but you know, we've put them in this, you know, like get hard and be present and carry the thing. And we expect them to just show up and do the thing, whatever it is. And they have their own trauma stories, pain, fear, self-esteem issues, body issues, all of it. And I just think that that's so beautiful, that something that we might not even think about is maybe they're feeling disconnected too.
Oh, they probably are.
Everybody's gonna be like, are you disconnected right now? Okay, don't do that.
I know personally because of the work that I'm like sort of a tuning fork in terms of someone's presence. So I can tell you they probably are. Right. And a lot of the things we think are normal. I mean, we're talking about extreme for women has been sexually abused in some way. I think it's 1 in 7 has been raped. So this is a very common experience that happens. But even if that hasn't happened to you, there's a lot of what we think is normal that's pretty dysfunctional and pretty disconnected. And the same is true for men. Like they've been training their bodies to act like machines and thinking that emotion is weak. So of course, when they come to the bedroom, it's really difficult for them to just switch into a different gear. So if you need a moment to be present, that might be helpful for them too.
Something that you can share with your partner. That could be a conversation you could have pre-sex, post-sex, on the couch, whatever, just like opening up the safe container to say, if you ever feel this way, let me know. And I'll totally hold space for that because I have felt that, you know, like imagine what that would do to so many people. Like, this is why people need to work with ISIS, because truly, like, it's going to change the face of your relationship.
Well, and I want to take it a step further. So yes, it's great to set a context, but I have stopped someone as they're entering me. Wait, I'm not here yet.
Go back.
Like, can we take a second and breathe? Or, oops, I don't feel you, because as someone been through abuse, I also don't want to re-traumatize myself by being with somebody that isn't fully there. That's good to me. And I think that's something that we also do, and we feel like maybe it is what we're supposed to do, is we enter into things that don't really feel like a full yes.
Right.
Out setting the boundary. And you asked in the beginning, how do you feel safe? Well, this is one of the ways that you feel safe, is you feel in your body when something isn't quite right, and then that's a no in that moment. That no
that can be with somebody that you love.
Oh yeah.
Right. Can you actually give them a script that they can say? Because I know that there's people going, oh my God, that's so me right now, but they don't know the words. So what words could they use in that moment? Like even just one line or something. Can you give them a little script that they could share that's would feel safe to them?
To talk about how they're feeling disconnected?
Well, just if they're in a situation where they're with somebody that they love, or somebody that, you know, it's a situation that's healthy, right? But they just
Yeah.
don't want to, and they're at that place. Can you give them something that they could say would be like, I'm just, because sometimes I think that the way that we phrase things can make the other person feel responsible. So
for sure. So what I would suggest is use really simple feeling words about your experience so that it doesn't feel shaming or blaming to someone else. So for example, it could be, whoa, can we pause? I feel scared. Whoa, I'm noticing I feel disconnected right now.
wow.
Let there be this. It doesn't have to be a big rash.
A long explanation.
This is because of this, or if you, no, it can just be, ooh, I'm feeling this, and that's enough.
Wow. It's really super powerful.
Mm.
That it really is, you know, and I've had so many women, and I'm sure you've heard this too, you know, they'll say COVID is the worst thing that ever happened to them, you know, because all of a sudden their husband's home all the time. He wants to have sex all the time. And they're like, so I just give it to him so that he'll leave me alone. And I'm, you know, we all giggle, but that's not healthy. Right.
Well, so, and speaks to a bigger problem if you don't want to have sex with your husband. And then it's probably not just you and what's going on in you, that there's probably something else going on in terms of him and his behavior and how he's holding himself, or distortions, you know, like
expectation of you just always like, oh yeah, I'm just going to throw down the thing and just do it wherever all the time. You know, even if you love having sex with your husband, but you know, you're in the middle of something and you don't feel like doing it, it's okay to use language that's safe language.
Right. And it
disconnected to you right now or something.
Right. And also what I'm hearing, if somebody is pursuing you for sex like it's an activity for them, that there's probably something happening that's a disconnect in them.
Right. Right.
And, you know, I think it's understandable. And I really want to give women permission. If you're feeling like there's not that flow, there's not that, not just about you.
Right.
The odds that it's just about you are very, very small. I'm not saying there isn't something going on for you, but there's a lot of things, again, that we think are normal that are distortions and disconnection in our male partners, not because they're mean or they're bad or they're trying to do something wrong, but because they haven't learned how to connect and really allow life to move through their bodies.
Ugh.
So they may be coming at you from their head and you know, their penis, and you want to feel their heart.
Right.
That's good information.
Yeah.
Right. Anything else you could say is, wow, I'm really not feeling safe right now. I long to feel more of you. Because usually men don't know what's going on. And this is something that I work with, is that when a woman says no, it's not that they're saying you're bad or you're not sexy, or they don't, or even that they don't want you.
You're a bad lover, which really hits them in the groin, right? Like, what do you mean, no, am I a bad lover? No. No.
It's a request for more of them, or an integrated version of them. Like, I have literally had partners where I'm like, ugh, no, like, this doesn't feel good right now. And they learned, because we've worked together long enough, to go away for 5 minutes, to ground, to connect, to breathe, to feel the things that they haven't let themselves feel, and to come back. And in that place, I'm like, yes, yum. Because I wasn't rejecting them. I was rejecting how they were showing up.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Or even just how you're showing up, right? Like, you just weren't showing up for yourself, maybe, you know?
Oh, for sure. But in terms of like being able to give that feedback to a partner, I think it's also important to set the context of, can we make a commitment to really show up with all of ourselves? And if we're not here, acknowledge it.
Be safe to say it and acknowledge it. I love that. I think that's such a beautiful container to create, and talk about like open and honest and vulnerable connecting conversation that just changes the face of your sex life, of your relationship. Because then you're going to have that same conversation in lots of different places, right?
Right.
You know, dinner or whatever, on a trip. I don't know. You're not connected. You know, I don't feel like we're here together.
Yeah. You know, can we take a breath together?
It's beautiful.
Yeah. I want to surrender first to myself, and then feel safer to surrender with you.
So how does this work that you're doing, what kind of a transformation
Oh.
have you witnessed with, yeah, exactly. So can you share maybe like a transformation story, or because I want people to see the impact of what this kind of a conversation with you over an extended period of time would have on them, and, you know, kind of everything outward. Because of course, you know, we wanted to talk about people being able to have the relationship that they really want, either in the future or with the person that they're with. Like, you don't have to leave what you're in. You know, most people aren't going to this place with their partner. Truth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what kind of transformation have you witnessed? I know there's lots of different versions of it, but maybe just give us.
Well, the first thing I want to say is most of us are not going these places in ourselves either. You know, I am recently out of a relationship, and thinking about getting into a new relationship, I'm like, okay, what's the skill set of passion? You know, how am I engaging with my own life? Am I getting past, you know, my body's limits? Am I engaging sensuously with the dishes and the hot water as I wash them? Am I doing things that give me pleasure? Am I coming home? Am I feeling the places where I'm stuck or shutting off, or I'm sad or I'm scared, and actually let myself express and love these places and get the support that I need? So the way that I work with people isn't about creating new constructs for them where they have to, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to learn this and da 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 da. It's about bringing them to a place where first they're lovers to themselves and they're lovers to their own lives.
Love that.
That they're set up in a way where, regardless if you're with somebody or not, you are whole, you're full, you're sensually engaged, you are living from a place of passion. And when you get disconnected from that, you know how to come back. Come back. It is a skill set and a practice. So when you take two people, if you're looking at a traditional partnership in that way, and you teach them how to be whole and full and how to speak from their body and connect from their body and get back to a place of innocence. So a lot of the work I do is unraveling. It's giving people practices of like, this is how you come back to the state when you're disconnected. Here's how to identify when you're connected. Here some words, some things to practice and play with, and you know, and start to create a new paradigm for you. But also, when you come back to your innocence, it's not, this is how I'm going to be in bed. It's act, feel, act.
It's how I'm going to be. Right.
It's coming from a place of you are in the moment.
Right.
One of the things that I wrote once was, I want to be with every man on earth but in one man. And by that is you think about these kind of stale, stagnant relationships over time. How do they get that way? It's because we get into routines, we get into like constructs, we cut off parts of ourselves, we ignore parts of our partner. But when you come from a place of innocence, curiosity, deep feeling, you are different every day. You feel, act. First of all, there's that little bit of tension and excitement with your partner because you don't know how they're going to be. Because if they're feel, act, who knows what they're going to do next?
Right. Yeah.
Those 3 moves they do over and over again. And they don't know how you're going to.
That's why we leave our bodies. We're like, this is really familiar territory.
And I could do a better job by myself potentially. Yeah. So things I've seen marriages of like 30, 40 years. I've worked with a few people who've been in really long-term marriages that have become stale and stagnant and they're feeling like, I love this person, but I'm not in love. Suddenly ignite and be the thing that was always meant to be, with deep commitment and connection, but also mystery and passion and excitement, and better than it was at the beginning. Many times better. People learning their bodies and their partner's bodies for the very first time after 40 years. And I've seen the relief of you being with a couple and there's no sexual polarity. And what I mean by that is like magnets, there's no, it's sort of, they're in this place of
shut it down, right? They're like, yeah, we're just best friends.
Right, exactly. We're best friends, we're good parents, we're good partners together. care about each other, we're
Oh,
safe.
nice. Yeah.
Right? If it's totally safe, it's also probably a little bit boring. And,
Yeah, right.
the relief on the man's face when I'm like, okay, the way that you're being in your body right now is creepy, but let me tell you why. You're not creepy, but the way that it's moving, the way you're holding your butt, the way you're disconnecting is coming across in this way, and your partner is responding like this. So the good news, this is all a skill set. So if you do it this way, if you relax your belly, if you feel the weight and shape of your penis, suddenly feel not that you're creepy, because the creepy is coming from the disconnect, is
Right.
that you're safe, you're there, there's something to connect with.
Right.
And like, oh my God, this whole time he's been being rejected, and he thought that maybe he was just a creepy guy, but no, the ways that we disconnect, the ways that we wall off, the ways that we try to keep each other safe are often the very things that kill the awareness in the relationship.
Right.
So to have someone be like, okay, that thing you did right there, where you just, and you pushed out your head and you did it, like, did you see what your partner did in response to that? Sure, their vagina just kind of clamped up, like, so it takes
We've all
away,
had that happen. Yeah, totally.
it takes away the fear, and it's just like, okay, this is a skill set and a surrender. That's it.
And what I love is that it's a skill set, meaning that
Yeah.
anybody can learn it. You know, it's not like if you are disconnected at 70, like another thing that women or men say. And at this point in my life, I always say, oh my God, I hope I never say that, is that it's not important to me anymore, or I don't really care about that. Of course, we all know that deep, if you pulled all the layers out, I'm sure the majority of people would say, I would love to have a beautiful, healthy, intimate relationship with my partner. The problem is they don't think it's possible. They think that age has something to do with it, you know, where, and maybe it does. I don't know. I feel like it could, but I don't believe that it does, because we've all seen examples of people who are completely disconnected and been married for 40 years, and then people who are more in love and more intimate than ever before. Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But there's a real difference in the way that those people practice their lives together.
Right. It, like I said, it's a practice, and some of the people in my courses are 70. Some of the people having the best sex are 80. You know, like at any point, I remember my dad making a decision at 65 to do his own version of unwrapping and really becoming a beautiful man. Like at any point where you're like, wait a minute, is this me? Is this my identity? Or are these things that I've been practicing and doing and things that have happened that I can unwrap so that I can actually find out who I am? When you know who you are and you're able to come back to that innocence and you unwrap, like a lot of people who are older have been told that now that they don't matter and they're just supposed to sit on the shelf and wait to die. That's not a sexy feeling.
No.
When you start to unwrap all of that stuff,
right.
and you unwrap all the body shame, right? Like one of the greatest points of shame for women is body shame, because it's just shoved down our throat and we're constantly looking at ourselves from outside of ourselves.
It's accepted, right? It's accepted and perpetuated. Yeah.
Once you barf that stuff up and you're like, wait a minute. What am I? What's the new context for my life? Like, how can I engage through my body?
Right.
The feeling of my body. Yeah, you can make that decision at any age. And especially if you're older, like, this is your moment.
Yeah. Amen.
It's your moment.
You know, and I love all of this, because I feel that there are like the community that I have here in the Uncommon Woman is kind of like midlife. And I know that sexuality is the one thing that women who are midlife talk about the least. However, it's one of the greatest shifts that happens in our lives, you know, because a lot of the women who are midlife become empty nesters and they're settled in their career, and all of a sudden it's them and their partner.
Yeah.
And it's like the kids aren't distractions. The job isn't a distraction right now with COVID, you know, it's been a year, so it's a real thing. It's not just a few months. People are together, right? And so it's a difficult conversation. It's a challenging, uncomfortable conversation to have, but it can be such a game changer, right? For your relation. Imagine if you could do COVID and you're like, I can't wait. I'm going to be sad when it's all over, you know, whatever, because in that time, I've gotten so intimate with my partner. We actually had the pause that we've needed in order to like reconnect with self and others and all of the things. So I'm looking at the time. It's been an hour. Of course it has.
Oh my God.
I know, right? So I want to make sure it's amazing. I mean, we could go on forever and I have so many questions, but anyway, I would like people to know about your program that you're offering coming up, because I think it's like a one of a kind. I haven't seen anything like it. And I also love that you're inviting men into this conversation as well, which is different because we've always been excluding. And I think it's time that we include. So can you talk about your program? Just like throw it out there and what you're offering and how they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I'll say, if you're interested in this conversation, I just did 2 lives classes on Facebook, and you're welcome to go back and watch those. And then the 19th, I'll be doing a free Zoom call where we'll actually be doing some of the workshop thing, and you'll see this information really grounded in people's individual experience, and if you're on the Zoom call, in your experience. The 14-day course that I'm doing starts January 24th, and it's called Tango Intimacy. So I loved when you were talking about it being a tango.
Right.
Skill set and surrender of passion. So it's actually taking these concepts and it's making it real, and it's helping you learn the practices to do it, and also to workshop the stuff that comes up when it does, because it's saying enlightenment, just be present. And you're like, dude, that's so hard.
Right. Yeah. Easier said than done.
this happens, and that happens. And so that's why the 14-day course is on Zoom. So some of it is lecture and content and shifting your paradigm and helping you to think about things different ways. Some of it is the practice, and then some of it is workshopping things. So I would absolutely love, if you're interested, you can DM me, find out more information on Facebook, but it is one of a kind thing. And I've spent so much time doing the standard things, everything from studying with David Data to learning about trauma, all of this stuff. And for me, this is like the next level piece of, okay, it's one thing to imagine all of these kind of disparate concepts, another thing to put them together, see how to actually bring it into your life and look at it from an angle where you get to be a human being.
Yeah.
Trying to be another this or that.
Right.
To feel sexy.
Right. And I think that's just beautiful. And I love that, first of all, I love that it's a 2-week shot, right? So people can have an opportunity if they want to come in and work with you for a short period of time and then see if they want to take it further. But also, you know, 2 weeks is an easy commitment. And if it can have a massive, you know, impact, or even a small impact, whatever, any impact at this point is good when you're not feeling anything. And to be able to have a shift, a paradigm shift somewhere in your life that takes you into a new place is so powerful. We're in, you know, we're at the beginning of a brand new decade, brand new era, brand new everything. And as women, in order for us to, you know, there are a lot of women who are teachers and healers and mentors and leaders in this community. And I feel, and I know it's maybe, you know, not super popular for me to say this, but I feel like we're still avoiding the thing that needs to be spoken about the most, which is our womanhood. And within that is our sexuality and our desire and our need for intimacy. And we're really good at shutting that down and making social media so, you know, and all the places just so neat and tidy. But there's this whole piece, a whole part of us that is so abundant and so juicy and can contribute to what we contribute to the world when we actually access it and open it up. Right. And
because like, again,
divine feminine power.
Right, paradigm sexuality, I don't see it as an activity, like now I'm being sexual, now I'm not. I see it as you turn on your body and you turn on your power, and I use that aliveness while I'm in emails. I use that aliveness in my work. I'm using that aliveness right now. I am sourcing from the power of my pelvis, from the fullness there, from my connection to life, to nature, right? To the primal even. And so this isn't just about being with your partner. This is about learning how to actually be in your own life.
Exactly. Right. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there's a lot of programming out there that's about how to be with your partner.
Yeah.
Right. And what I love about this is the learning and the practice of being is going to therefore contribute to being with everybody, partners included, right? We're just going to be fully and completely who we are. So people can DM you. You start the end of January. I think you said the 29th?
24th.
24th. Yeah. And please follow Isis on Facebook.
Thank you.
Wherever, on Instagram. She also has a great website that I went and checked out with some cool blogs, and just the work that you're doing in the world is really beautiful. And I know that I'm talking high. I speak so highly of it because it really resonates with me right now. Just as a woman who's always searching for a deeper connection to that piece of me, because as an entrepreneur, I've been so heavy in my masculine energy. In the fitness industry, I was so heavy in my masculine energy. And one of the things that came up for me in 2020 was the softness and the connection to my sexuality and my creation and my inner, like, and all parts of it. And it was just like stuff I hadn't even really thought about before, that it can be such a gift in your delivery of everything that you do in life is just, right? Being so connected.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you said that. I mean, it's our birthright to be ourselves, and this is an important aspect of learning what our capacity is.
Exactly. So thank you so much, Goddess, for being here. Yeah. And blessings on your journey with all of the people who are going to come into your program and benefit so much from what you do. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much, really.
I hope that everything is beautiful in Spain, one of my favorite countries. And take care of yourself and be safe. And if anybody wants to connect with her, please make sure to DM her and reach out. And like I said earlier, if this resonates, if you think that this message is worth sharing, which I'm a little bit biased, but I think it is, please share the screen and share it out to your community, and just tag Isis and myself in it so that we are able to thank you for that. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Have an incredible, incredible day. Take care. Bye-bye.